Welcome to Perspectives with Asima Silva. Today is going to be a little bit of a different format. I wanted to take the opportunity to talk about my perspective and my choice of doing these particular following shows that you'll have the opportunity to watch. I am going to address a couple of things that are a little bit of a hot topic, topics that are very sensitive, to the point where some people do not want to hear about this topic. It's the Israeli-Palestinian issue. Before I begin with that, I wanted to let you know about my own personal journey of why I'm interested in this issue. Back in high school, I actually was part of Model UN, and I took the opportunity at that time to just investigate the hot topics that were happening around the world. And one of the things that obviously popped up was the Israeli-Palestinian issue. I also had the opportunity at that time to visit the Harvard Law School and the library, and did a lot of research on UN resolutions. Back then there was no internet. I had to actually do the manual process of going through books and papers and reading. And I found numerous upon numerous and hundreds of UN resolutions talking about human rights violations. And it really angered me. The reason why it angered me is because as an American, which I am, and I consider myself a very proud American, that I grew up reading the book of Anne Frank. It was one of the books that I literally took to heart. It was a book that exposed me to the idea of what can happen to a child when there's war. I remember all the imagery. It was to the point where I could not sleep at night, thinking about a girl that was my age, hiding in a closet, hearing footsteps, and deathly scared of being killed. Now, for that reason, it really angered me to find out that we are repeating history again. And I wanted to take the opportunity to read a particular poem so that you can understand why this issue is so heartbreaking. And the title of this poem is Words Whispered to a Child Under Siege. No, we are not going to die. The sounds you hear, the knocking, the windows, and the chipping paint from the ceiling, that is a game. The world is playing. Our task is to crouch in the dark as long as we can and count the beats of our own hearts. Good, like that. Lay your hand on my heart and I'll lay mine on yours. Which one of us wins? Is the one who loves the game and the most while it lasts. Yes, it's going to last. You can use your ear instead of your hand. Here on my heart. Why is it beating faster? For you. That's all. I always wanted you to be born, and so did the world. No, those aren't strangers' footsteps in the house. Yes, I'm here, we're safe. Remember chess? Remember hide and seek? The song your mother sang? Let's sing that one. She's still with us, yes. But you have to sing without making a sound. She's like that. No, those aren't footsteps. Sing louder. Those aren't footsteps. Let me show you how I cried when you were born. Those aren't footsteps. Those aren't sirens. Those aren't flames. Close your eyes, like chess, like hide and seek. When the game is done, you get another life. To me, that sounds like something Anne Frank would have wrote. And so, for those of you out there who do not know this side of the story, who do not see the pictures, who do not hear the other side, the whole reason of this show is perspectives, is to give the stories that major media will not cover. And today I am going to talk about this topic, about the Palestinian issue. But I wanted to give you the reason why I am covering this particular topic, even though I have been told that I might get targeted, that I might get called anti-Semitic, that I might, in this cancel culture, get reported on Facebook, social media, get banned. But honestly, what situation has there been when you have an oppressed people that people didn't do those kind of threats? And we have the opportunity in this country that believes in human rights. And one thing I believe in, and I always preach this to my kids and everyone that I talk to, we need to stop thinking of adjectives. When when we talk about human rights, it's human rights, not Jewish rights, not Palestinian rights, not any type of other adjectives that you put in front of a human. It's human rights. And so if you ask me, do I condemn violence? Yes. Do I condemn Hamas about their actions and violence? Yes. But I also condemn any state and any type of philosophy that thinks one human is better than another, that one religion is better than another. Therefore, today I am going to cover the Palestinian issue, and we are going to talk about human rights. And I want everyone to please concentrate on that and not be one-sided. Open your ears, your hearts, understand both sides, and then make your decision. So we have our guest today to talk about the Palestinian topic. This person is very dear to me and my family. He has been part of our lives in many different forms. I really welcome Dr. Yaser Najjar here today. He is a resident of the greater Worcester area and also a retired professor. And the reason why he's going to talk about this topic is because he's also a Palestinian. And thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm here as an American Palestinian, and really I'm proud to be an American because this country gave me a lot since I came here in 1982 as a graduate student. And I had a mission to educate my fellow Americans about the outside world, as well as educate my fellow Palestinians and Middle Eastern people about the United States and the West in general. I think there is really a big misconception and misunderstanding from two sides, and that's related to politicians in two sides. With all my respect to the people who run to any political position, I don't know why when they need to learn about any conflict, they don't really invite the right people. They select certain advisors, and maybe these advisors always tell them what they wanted to hear. Now, a common stereotype that, oh my God, that land, that area has been facing conflicts forever, thousands of years, and no way there will be a solution. I think I reject this notion 100%. If we are objectively analyzing the history of that land. Number one, we have to recognize the fact that God, our Creator, who created us all equally. So we should look at each other from a human perspective, from a human eye, not from a personal interest, economic interest, political interest, domination, whatsoever. Now, if we recognize that we have only one Creator, and He created all, that Creator called that land the blessed land. And He encouraged and invited and helped Prophet Abraham, peace be upon him, to migrate from Ur, which is part of Iraq today, to Greater Syria, then to Palestine, and from Palestine, which was used to be known, by the way, as the land of Canaan. He told him, go to the blessed land. And he lived there. And he had his two children, Ishmael and Isaac. And Ishmael ended up in the Arabian Peninsula. Isaac had his son Jacob. Jacob, he has 12 children. One of them definitely Prophet Joseph, peace be upon him, and peace be upon Jacob. Jacob, all the children, the descendants of those 12, they are known as Bani Israelites. And they came with the help of Prophet Moses, peace be upon him, to migrate from Egypt back to the blessed land because they had been under oppression. So God always in the side of those oppressed people. Israelites lived in peace with the native population of that land called the Canaanites. Canaan, which is, or they are the descendants of the children of Noah. So that land has been populated for those native population, according to the history literature, since 26,000 years before the birth of Christ. So that land always populated, and the people always welcomed the outsider. Yes, there was some conflicts here and there between the Israelites and those natives, But the most disaster that took place in that land when the outsider, the Babylonian, the Assyrians invaded that land, and they really abused all of the population, including the Israelites as well as the people of Canaan. Then that land witnessed the colonization and the occupation of too many nations. However, none of these colonizer power stayed there forever. And before 1948, because that's really a summary for those thousands of years. Before 1948, immediately in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, the population of Palestine, according to my own grandfather, Palestinians consisted of Muslims, Christians, and Jewish people. So there were Jewish people before 1948, definitely. And they are considered native of that land. And they were living in peace together without any discrimination until World War I, World War II, and we know the disaster and the crisis of World War I and World War II, more than 100 million people killed in Europe. And it seems to me Europe got out of the war, instead of spreading peace and be concerned about saving human, they start colonizing outside lands. So they ended up, they have the dream to colonize the Middle East, and maybe they wanted a base there. That could be. So they did encourage the Jewish population of Europe to migrate, and I don't blame them why they run away from Europe, especially the Holocaust, which definitely it is condemned by all means by every human being, even by every Palestinian. So they ended up coming to Palestine, and the numbers start increasing. Then, confrontation between the two people started, and Britain gave them the promise, which is called Balfour Declaration. At the same time, they gave the Arabs a promise for an independent state if they helped them to destroy the Ottoman Empire. And that happened. Then World War II came, and Britain decided to leave that land, and the United Nations got involved, and they came up with a resolution of partition of Palestine into two states, a Jewish and an Arab state. Then the war broke in 1948, and the first diaspora for the Palestinians started in 1948, and those Palestinians ended up in refugee camps. And it happened that my parents were forced to leave our hometown, and we ended up living in a refugee camp in Jericho, and I was born there. Then we moved to another refugee camp in Jordan, so I was raised in a refugee camp. So I know the miserable life of people under threatened, under violence, under wars. And that's why I never condone any violence. I always argue peace is the solution. And peace between whom? It has to be peace between the two people who were living together in that land, not between governments. Governments will not deliver anything, because officials in any government, their main first interest, first goal, to be elected or re-elected.
Yes.
And this is really the sad. And I feel bad when we people, the honest people of the United States, the honest people of the whole world, we give almost our neck and our future to those politicians who, I don't know, have they trained to lie? Have they trained to misrepresent the information to us? And I'm inviting all people with all their background, with all their religious beliefs, with their own socioeconomic orientation, let's get back to our basic humanity. We are human. Palestinians are humans. The Israelis are humans. Everyone on this earth is human. So let's share the land, and let's share the love, safety, and security.
I do not want to insult you by asking you directly this comment. Instead, I wanted to ask you, how do the Palestinians feel regarding Israelis, regarding Israeli settlers? And let me ask you why I'm asking this question. I do not want to ask you this question directly by asking you, Do Palestinians believe that all Israeli settlers should be killed or moved out or, told to leave the country? Because I think that is definitely a very insulting question. I think it's a naive question. I think it's an immature question. How do you feel the Palestinian people feel towards Israeli settlers in terms of finding a solution, working with them? Would they be, what would their feelings towards after this kind of atrocity is happening be?
Well, again, my personal feeling, we have really to distinguish between the majority normal population of the state of Israel who have been living in that land since they migrated from the different parts of the world and they gathered there, and those who are now living in illegal settlements. And the illegality of these settlements recognized by the United States government and all governments on earth as well as the United Nations. And those illegal settlements, they are the ones who are really causing us the problem now. And those are the ones who are giving the ground to the Palestinian on the other side. And in every people here, Palestinians or Israelis, definitely there is moderate and there is radical.
Yep.
Yeah. So the radicals in the Israeli side, who are the settlers living in illegal settlements and torturing people in West Bank, in Jerusalem, and on the surrounding area of Gaza. And we have been seeing, this conflict is not new, did not take place in just October 7. It has been existing since 1975. And I thought the Israeli leaders and the Palestinian leaders got to their sense when they met in 1993 and they signed the peace accord. And the whole world, we celebrated, good, finally there is a solution. But 1993 until now, where is the peace? Where is the solution? They agreed on 5 years of temporary period, transitional period. Now it's more than 30, nothing changed. Illegal settlements increases, and the most dangerous point at this time, it's this radical Israeli government are, instead of discouraging those settlers, illegal settlers, they are encouraging them and they are supporting them, even they are represented in the government by two cabinets plus the prime minister. So we have a feeling that those illegal settlers should not be there. The rest of the Israelis, I have no problem. They were given the right of return. Then the Palestinians in the diaspora has to be given the same right of return. Right. And what do you mean by the right of return? I don't think all the Jewish population in the world went and lived in Israel. We have a lot of Jewish Americans. Not all of them, they moved to Israel. Majority of them, they live here. They love to support Israel. They love to visit Israel. Same thing for us Palestinians. I don't think, for example, for me, it's going to be really easy for me to leave my country, the United States, who I have been living here for more than 4 years, and I go live in the Palestinian state, but at least I will have the right to visit. Not every time I want to try to go, then I will be tortured on the border for a few hours, a million of questions. Mm-hmm. And by the way, I had a chance to visit Jerusalem after I got my American citizens, not really before that. So, equal treatment, equal respect. Let's stand against radicals from both sides, and let's support the moderates from both sides, and hopefully bring a solution if we are really serious. And how we do that? If we people start realizing these facts and really pressure the politicians to make the right decisions, not based on the number of electoral or the number or the amount of money we donate in the fundraise. It's on really the American values. Yeah. Honestly, I feel sad sometimes when we talk about American values, Western values, beautiful on paper. But when it comes to applying these values, we find a lot of excuses for us. Collateral damage, They are using the civilian as a human shield, and all of these nonsense excuses, and we know they know the facts because we know the technology and we have the power.
Specifically on this issue, I have covered the Uyghur issue, I've covered the India issue, I've covered a few other issues, but particularly on this issue, I have gotten so much pushback on having to even bring up this issue, the Palestinian side of the story. These stories and this topic people don't want it to be spread. They don't want people to know what's going on. And I find it really, really astounding to the amount of atrocities that are happening, but the amount of hush-hush activity that is going on. Can you please elaborate on that?
Well, thank you for this important question. I don't think your interest or my interest to support one side on the expenses of the other side. I think we are here to clarify the value of respecting humans, the value of saving the lives of innocent people, the value of having peace. If we reach peace, everyone will have economic prosperity, everyone will have safety, and everyone will be happy. And instead of talking about conflicts, we might talk about how can we collaborate in improving our economy, our social problems, and how can we raise our children properly, how can we admire our families, how can we enjoy this life, which will not last forever. See, the core issue with any human, with any people, we forget that we're gonna die. We're gonna die. We are not gonna live. How many years? 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 150? Where we will end up. So why don't we utilize our life to understand each other? Understanding is the basic remedy and the basic answer. And you can't understand unless you dig for information. And information should come from different resources. You cannot base your understanding of any conflicts or any issue by reading only from one source. You have to diverse your resources. Listen to a Palestinian, listen to an Israeli, listen to an open-minded, listen to close-minded, and you put this information in front of you and use your brain and come up with a conclusion. And the conclusion I'm inviting my fellow Americans to reach is not to take one side against the other. Not to take, oh my God, then those Palestinians really, they have the right. Let's have unlimited support them. No, you have to support the moderate of the two sides in order to save their lives. And once you save their lives, we're gonna save our own life and our own money, and we can focus on really our development.
So I know you said you were born in a refugee camp. And what news are you getting from that area?
Well, the news, everyone really worry. Everyone is really concerned. Are the people of Gaza going to face the second wave of becoming refugees? Because, by the way, 80% of the population of Gaza today, which are about 2,300,000, are refugees. Means they are not really the native of Gaza. They were refugees who were forced to leave, and they have been living in 8 refugee camps in Gaza. And some of them, even their grandparents are still alive. So we're talking about maybe these people are the 3rd generation, grandchildren of those people that originally were kicked. And I really, they are worried about, they don't want to face what their grandparents faces, as much as, any nationality, any group of people who have a history of have been abused hundreds of years ago, they don't want that abusement to happen to them again. So we should not repeat the disasters. It's time really to talk about peace and sense, which is compromising accepting each other, and sharing the land together.
So what would you say, local Worcester residents and any viewers to our audience, what do you hope for us to do to help in this situation? Because at this point, there are many people that are feeling hopeless. There are people that are speaking out, but maybe not heard. How can we help before it gets worse? What can we as individuals do? Are there places we can donate? Is there places that we can go to get more information? Could you please share that with our audience?
I think that the best request for any human beings, for my fellow Americans, I want you, when you go to bed, to have a good, peaceful sleep and not feeling guilty. And how I might feel guilty? I feel guilty if I say, hey, it's not in my backyard. It doesn't matter. Those people, I'm not interested in what they are doing. No, they are human being like you are, and I wish each American have the opportunity to travel overseas, go visit outside. The more you visit outside, the more you appreciate the human brotherhood relationship between Americans and others. And I hope it is really time for us to communicate with our politicians and demand from them stop this massacre, the killing of civilians from both sides. Stop this war. Escalating this war is gonna bring more disasters. And I don't care who's gonna win militarily, because the outcome of any conflict is gonna produce another generation who have been abused, and those people have been abused, maybe they have the goal to revenge, and we're gonna be in the same cycle. So peace, and peace come between people, not governments. Thank you.
On this show, you have seen me interview Dr. Bill Slaughterhouse, who went into Gaza as a mental health provider. If you'd like to see some of his shows on what he had seen even before October 7th, this has been going on for a while. When I've covered these kind of topics, we talked about the Uyghur issue, and to me that was the most horrific 21st century concentration camps that we could find, and I barely held myself together while we were hearing the testimonies of people who escaped to the United States and they couldn't figure out what was happening with their family members. I've covered the Rohingya issue. I've covered the India issue that's happening there. But I can tell you right now, one thing that frustrates me about this issue, as Dr. Najjar just pointed out, is that this particular issue has had the world watching for 75 years. We've had UN resolutions, we've had governments acknowledging that there has been illegal settlements, human rights violations, and the world has stayed silent. And that is what's frustrating, is how can we keep staying silent when 50% of the Gazan population are children under 16?
Thank you so much. Actually, what you are really asking the American people to do, it's honestly at the end serving us Americans. Because once we value the life of innocent people in Gaza as well as in Israel, then we are valuing the value of our own life. And if we can solve or helping in solving that conflict or any other conflict overseas, that will give us the time and save our money to be more concerned about the United States development socially and economically. So supporting peace, demanding an immediate ceasefire, it's really helping us Americans living in the United States and in Worcester area, because the more we stop the killing, the more we're gonna save even sending money to those people who are really fighting there. So let's help our country, and let's keep the American values, and let's keep America to be respected all over the world again.
Thank you. I couldn't have said it better. So thank you for watching Perspectives with Asima Silva, and I hope you join us again.